and we face such choices right now. Shall we respond to the changes of our time with fear, turning inwards as Southern Cameroonians, and turning against each other as a people? Or shall we face the future with confidence in who we are, what we stand for, and the incredible thing we can do together? It is good to look ahead, what the future may bring for us. But first, let's attempt to provide answers to the following issues based on the theme, the dawn of the new era: freedom and liberty for Southern Cameroon, freedom and liberty for Ambazonia. First, what was the tipping point? Second, which stakeholders have held our hands? And finally, what does the immediate future hold for the people of Southern Cameroon, for the people of Ambazonia? Let's start with the first question. What was the tipping point? Benjamin Franklin indicates that they who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary, those who can give up for a little temporary safety deserve no liberty, no safety. The tipping point has been provoked by the lack of astute leadership by the President of La République du Cameroun. It has been provoked by Mr. Paul Biya. Now, please indulge me to address the President of the Republic of Cameroon at this point. Mr. President, Mr. Paul Biya, notwithstanding the above-mentioned failures of your stewardship on the nation of the people of Southern Cameroon, you are once again given an opportunity to show your leadership as a father. This occurred when the lawyers and the teachers expressed their rights to be granted freedom. These requests were made because of the inefficient
Na na na, na na na. Ambazonia People's National Convention is the place for all. Let us come to take stock and redefine our future. Come 28th of February at Philadelphia. APNC is a conference called by the people cause they need a resolution. Eh? From our post to ground zero to ground one, we all are the IG. Let us come, let us come, let us come as one. Cause united we can save our lane. They say together we will stand, but divided we fall. Raise our voices to speak as one. Yeah. APNC is a conference called by the people cause they need a resolution. Eh? From our post to ground zero to ground one, we all are the IG. Let us come as one. Let us heal our land. Let us come as one. Let us save our land. Yeah, it's the beginning of a new dawn. Let's put our heads together cause we really need a resolution. Let's put the differences aside cause we all have a big role to play in this revolution. This is the time we've been waiting for, a time to arise and reclaim our fathers and stop procrastination and step for.
You know that the IG has different arms. There are different arms of government. There's a cabinet headed by the AP at the moment, and then there's a restoration council, which is supposed to be independent of the cabinet, and it has its role to play. So we cannot come sit here today and just talk cabinet, AP. My question is, what was the restoration council doing? Where was the restoration council when all of this was happening in the struggle? Where was the restoration council when the AVP got fired? Where was the restoration council when ABC was created? Where was the restoration council when the backlashing and the witch hunting happened? Where was the restoration council at the same time when the AP denounced country coordinators and adopted local, regional representatives that are not in the constitution or the supposed constitution that is signed? And what constitution guides the performance of the AP at the moment. We cannot and we should not sit here and put everything on the AP when we have institutions and organs within the IG that were supposed to ensure that the cabinet did what it was supposed to do, and these institutions failed in every aspect to make sure cabinet functioned the way it was supposed to function. So I want to ask the chairman of the Restoration Council, basically, where were you and your team? Thank you.
What are the mechanisms in place at the moment from a Restoration Council point of view that will check the excesses and the deviant nature of leadership? What mechanisms do we have right now?
Comrade JC asked a question that what did the Restoration Council do, or why did the Restoration Council not do anything to check the excesses of the cabinet? What happened is this. We used to have the governing council, and when the IG was formed, most members of the IG, most members of the governing council were co-opted into the cabinet, into the government. So we were just 4 of us left in the Restoration Council. So for a long time, the Restoration Council was not functioning. Even when our leaders, when our president and other leaders were abducted, the Restoration Council was not yet functioning. That is why when Comrade Sako was voted AP, I was the only person from the Restoration Council. There was no other person who took part in those elections. Yes, after that, we went through the Constitution and adopted the Constitution, and was signed and put into law. Then, after a few months, some issues came up between the AP, the acting president, and the acting interim vice president. And this was brought to my attention. By then, the Restoration Council were just about 7 of us, or 7 or 8. This was brought to our attention. And by then, we had a constitution. The constitution says the president has the right to hire and fire the vice president. Okay. But Comrade Sako is the acting interim president. In the constitution, there's nothing about acting interim president. Therefore, he was treated like the acting president. And the constitution says the president has the right to hire and fire the VP. I spoke with him, or not me, many people advised me, said no. But listen, even if there are issues, let him state it politically. This is not good because we have a strong base in South Africa, and this is alienating South Africa if you do this. So we are advising you not to do this. Hey, he insisted. Well, he dwelled on the fact that in the Constitution, he was replacing the AVP that was who was appointed by Sisiku, who was unknown. Yes, so he said he was replacing the AVP. Yes. So after that, you talked also about SCBC. When SCBC sent a bill about privatization, by then the Restoration Council was functioning. The Restoration Council voted that the privatization should go ahead. But the acting president said no, he cannot sign it because it would appear, because Comrade Chris said they never passed, they were not even aware that they had sent a letter to the Restoration Council asking for this privatization. So the acting president, the interim president, he refused to sign that, and if he doesn't sign it, it cannot be a law because the president, he decided to veto it. The Restoration Council, as I told you, most of those who are there were recruited or proposed by some country heads, and a few of them were, there are some who were chosen by their countries. For instance, all of North America, the US, we have 2 members in the Restoration Council who do not represent the countries, they represent the US. We have 1 from Canada. We have 3 from Europe. And then we are supposed to have 2 from each county. So now, the problem is those from the counties were selected by the country heads that they were selected and sent to the Restoration Council. We tried to do some vetting, but it's not like I sit in front of you, we talk, I meet you every day, we talk, and I know you. You know, it's not the same. Please, mistakes have been made. All of us are in the learning process. I have made mistakes, you have made mistakes, we have made mistakes. But we should not sit on one spot and complain every day because something went wrong. I think we're here to try to fix things and to make sure that where we faltered, it should not have happened again. Comrade Red Baba and asked, I don't know if he's the one, asked for what measures are there to check the excesses of government. I said the elders we held a meeting for 2 weeks and we came out with some resolutions. With these resolutions, one of them was talking about a superstructure where the political side is completely different. You have the financial arm, you have the political side, and then you have the military. Yes, so all of this, if this is implemented, then it is not about Comrade Sako, it's about the post of the president or the acting president. He will only be like a figurehead. So if these resolutions are implemented, then I think all the mistakes most of the mistakes that we had in the past will be corrected. I'd like to appeal to everyone here, and especially those from South Africa. What happened, what transpired was not good for the revolution. It wasn't. So, one thing is certain. If you are in a revolution and you fall along the way and somebody holds your hand and you stand up, if you are somebody of substance, someday you will still come back into that leadership position you had before. So we should not sit on one spot and say, oh, Comrade Sako fired Milton, what did we do, what did you do? We did not do anything because the Constitution said he had the right to hire and fire him. I did not write that Constitution. Yes, I didn't write it.
This is the act of the swag. Papa and Mommy, them welcome for us. This is the act of the swag. Papa and Mommy, them welcome for us. And I hope everything's okay because because the code is out of. So let me check on this. So just there's a studio. Okay, please, I'm sorry for all the 70s. Of the So I hope that is all is okay. Because that's not the picture I see. Okay. So as I was saying, we are here in Philadelphia at the end of this very historic event, the Ambazonian People's National Convention, the APNC, that was spoken, unspoken, bespoken, whatever spoken. But at the end of the day, those of us who braved all the odds and came right here to Philadelphia, we have done some good work, and we believe that as from yesterday, this revolution has taken a complete different turn for the better. So I will leave the floor to all of my colleagues who are going to present the resolutions arrived at this convention. So please listen carefully, and all that information will be published online too, for you to read, for you to see, and all the like. Thank you. This is Dr. Anyamangasa, part of it. So, okay. I hope that it is going on now.
Yeah, we like.
So. So you can start.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings to all Ambalangas and friends of Ambazonia all over the world. We are here gathered today in Philadelphia, United States. Today is March the 3rd, 2019. And I am Jiban, spokesperson for APNC number 1, 2019. We are so pleased to be speaking to you from the city of Philadelphia, USA. Today, we have worked elaborately for 4 days, beginning from the 28th of February through today, the 3rd of March, 2019. On this occasion, we shall be presenting to you the resolutions of the just concluded All Ambazonian People's National Convention, Constitutional Convention in the great constitutional city of Philadelphia, USA. Before we delve into the press release of our resolutions, our draft final resolutions, we shall go through the Ambazonian National Anthem. We shall go through a minute of silence for those who have paid the ultimate price for this revolution with their lives. By so saying, we shall start with the minute of silence for the fallen heroes, the unsung heroes of the revolution. And that minute of silence begins now.
In the souls of the faithful departed, rest in peace. Amen.
It's going to be our national anthem, the Ambazonian national anthem. Hail,
Hail, hail the star of glory, we the Ambazonians pledge our loyalty. Praise the
Son and Savior, who granted us a freedom, allegiance to the heroes, who bought the land with blood. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Yeah, in a nation flowing with milk and honey. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making a nation a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our needs. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our needs. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation.
Ambazonia, oye!
Oye!
Ambazonia, oye!
Oye! You may be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ambazonian. Those at home, those on ground zero, those on ground one, the world over, friends of Ambazonians, we thank you for watching and paying attention to this special constitutional August event taking place in the great city of Philadelphia, USA, on this 3rd day of March 2019. The next item on our program is to delve straight into the press briefing, which will be the resolutions of the just ended convention. You shall be hearing the resolutions of the convention from no other person but the legendary barrister Bob Harmony, when he said in 2016 that if Cameroon does not respond to the petition put in by the common law lawyers, then they have a duty to revert. Please hear from our able barrister, proceed with the draft final resolutions of the All Ambazonian People's National Convention in Philadelphia. Thank you, barrister.
Resolutions of the Ambazonia People's National Convention, APNC 1, dated 3rd day of March 2019. Whereas we, the delegates to the Ambazonia People's National Convention, APNC 1, meeting on the 28th February to 3rd March 2019, at the Constitutional City of Philadelphia, United States of America, via a worldwide telecast session in response to the cry from Ambazonians across the home territory and the diaspora for an urgency to save the revolution from failing. Whereas in the last 4 months, the organizing committee of this convention worked tirelessly to prepare for this convention openly and with due invitations to all Ambazonia stakeholders without exception. Noting that as first task, the organizers of the APNC 1 responded by assuming the challenging task of attending to the cry of the Ambazonian people by embracing the voluntary, objective, independent and non-partisan answer to the people's call, cognizant of the necessity to ensure a constructive exercise. A business case was developed by the organizers in order to circumscribe the evaluation exercise. Considering that the APNC 1 organizing subcommittees had carried out preliminary work on the diagnosis of the problems besetting the revolution and sharpened the issues for review, which were voted and published as preliminary resolutions of the convention at the close of day 1 and 2 of the APNC 1. Bearing in mind that beyond the invited delegates who answered the call to physical presence for the convention and who were drawn from Europe, Africa, North America, were readily joined by Ambazonians worldwide through SCBC, that is the Southern Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, and telecast, noting the participation of AS, Ambazonia country and regional representatives, the Secretary of State for Economy and Finance, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Services, and the Chairperson of the Restoration Council, all of the interim government of Ambazonia, especially with the illumination of the magnitude of the problems with which the machinery of the interim government had become clogged. Considering the result of the great debate that the APNC 1 produced by way of preliminary resolutions and the further refining debates that continued through to March 3rd, 2019, culminating in concrete identification of the weaknesses, strengths, threats, and opportunities brought out by the evaluative exercise, recalling that the key weaknesses that underlie the observed and verified failures of the interim government primarily arise from the absence of a solid constitutional foundation for the transition from Declaration of Restoration of Independence Statehood of Southern Cameroon, now renamed Ambazonia, considering the finding that the constitutional problem referred to in the preceding paragraph is noted to have substantially generated grave abuses of executive power compounded by the lack of constitutional provision and an ethics and compliance system to assure checks and balances between the arms of government. Considering the failure of the interim government to play effective leadership in constructively lobbying all frontline resistance movements and groups involved in the Ambazonian liberation struggle, and the urgent need to open and properly build unity of purpose and complementarity for the attainment of the common objective of restoring and sustaining Ambazonia independence, considering the critical role of communication in doing government business and the contribution of a chaotic communication experience of the interim government with neither a policy framework nor any periodic plan of action, complicated by non-provision for monitoring, evaluation, and implementation, culminating in an underperformance-oriented communication system, which on the balance has done more harm than good to the struggle. We recall that the current Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia revolution is inspired and informed by the theory of restoration of the state and the supreme law of Southern Cameroon before its recolonization. Cognizant of the fact that the restoration of the state of Southern Cameroon, declared on October 1, 2017, was accompanied by the restoration of the institutions of the state under the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Constitution Order in Council, recalling that the Constitution itself was restored. We take cognizance of the developments since the first conclave with the putting in place of a draft interim constitution to cater to the current exceptional circumstances of the revolution through to our return to Boya. We equally note that the draft interim constitution was subsequently unconstitutionally modified in a way that compromised the principles of checks and balances between the organs of government, which compromise is at the root of the current problems plaguing the revolution and restoration process. The same document was never consulted with the Ambazonia public as per first conclave resolution prescriptions. Reaffirming the preliminary resolutions of the APNC 1 issued on the 2nd day of March 2019, relieved with the favorable decision of the Nigerian Federal High Court in Abuja, the fundamental right of the Naira 10 was violated and they should be rehabilitated and compensated together with the 47 others equally abducted from Taraba State and Cross River State, Calabar in particular. Mindful of the aim and rationale of the Ambazonian People's National Convention, slated for the 28th of February to the 3rd of March 2019, to conduct a diagnostic SWOT analysis and to develop a turnaround strategic roadmap for the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia struggle towards unity of purpose to save lives and relieve the suffering of the peoples of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Wherefore, we, the delegates of the Ambazonian People's National Convention, APNC 1, meeting in Philadelphia, the birthplace of the American Constitution, where the convention delegates of 1787 met in order to correct problems of an ineffective government and in search for a more perfect union, revise the articles of the Confederation and prefer to the new nation the system of checks and balances, separation of powers, federal versus state rights, guided by these same ideals. APNC 1, in order to correct the weaknesses of the interim government and to revise the mistakes of the fourth conclave, to create strong institutions for Ambazonia, we resolve as follows. We reaffirm the complete restoration of the independence of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia as demonstrated by the people's expression within the territory of Southern Cameroon, the 22nd of September, and concretely declared on the 1st of October 2017 by His Excellency President Sisiku Ayoktabe, based on the true and correct legal history of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. The APNC reaffirms the interim government as its government and Sisiku Ayoktabe as its president. 3, we highly condemn the unfortunate, unfounded announcement of the mental incapability of President Sisiku Ayoktabe to contribute to the optimal performance of the struggle. This statement smacks of a treasonable utterance. However, after proper check by reasonable, transparent clinical media, the APNC has ascertained and confirms that President Sisiku Ayoktabe and his cabinet are of sound disposing minds and capable of delivering on their offices with more optimal results, and urges for prayers and fasting for the proper exploitation of the Nigeria Federal High Court judgment for him and his cabinet members now incarcerated to be immediately released and to assume their duties and responsibilities in government. We express an urgent need for unity of purpose and call on nationalist movement to commit through a firm memorandum of understanding that places Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia restoration quest above personal and group interests. We regret the increase in the losses we register in lives over the past year, the suffering of our people in Ground Zero and Ground One, and condemn the ongoing genocide orchestrated and being executed by La République du Cameroon. That the APNC 1 shall maintain its collaborative approach to handling the problems identified in the course of this convention, and accordingly shall adopt and follow a policy of reconciliation and reconstruction of the Ambazonia restorative liberation struggle. That on account of the critical importance of an uncompromising principle and practice of accountability in the handling of public finance and public procurement, and having noted the appalling record of misappropriation of hard-earned Ambazonian citizens' contributions to the funds of the interim government, the APNC-1 hereby advises and directs, as a matter of urgency, that there be an independent external audit of the executive arm of the interim government at the behest of the Provisional Restoration Council, commencing within 7 days and to be completed within 30 days upon service of these resolutions on the chairperson of the Restoration Council and the House of Country and Regional Representatives. Based on credible evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and gross misappropriation of public funds, we resolve as follows. A, an independent external audit shall be initiated immediately and must be completed within 30 days. B, that during this audit, acting president, Dr. Samuel Ikomi Sako, as head of the executive arm of government in place, is placed on an administrative leave with immediate effect to provide an enabling environment for the work of the independent external auditors. C, that during the administrative leave, all access to interim government accounts and websites by the acting president shall be suspended. That the Provisional Restoration Council, chaired by Comrade Elvis Kometa, should provide oversight, that is supervision, of the executive and the affairs of the revolution. E, that the Provisional Restoration Council appoints a spokesperson and a deputy spokesperson for the time period. Number 9, the Provisional Restoration Council, in collaboration with regional and country representatives, shall create a treasury board for proper and accountable management of public funds. That upon the lapse of 30 days from the date of service of these resolutions on the Cabinet, the Restoration Council and the House of Country Representatives, County and Regional Representatives, the following, that a follow-up committee of the APNC is hereby established and constituted with a mandate to collaborate closely with the Provisional Restoration Council and House of Country and Regional Representatives to ensure the implementation of these resolutions and thereby ensuring a saving of the revolution through consultative and collaborative action with a wide spectrum of Ambazonia restoration stakeholders and all arms of the interim government. The APNC-1 resolves that these conventions follow-up committees shall, in collaboration with all Ambazonia revolutionary movements and groups, work out a framework for cooperative governance. That the APNC-1 follow-up committee shall, within the coming 30 days, open discussions with all Ambazonia stakeholders to effect a technical assignment of reviewing and presenting a draft constitution for the widest debate and ultimate ratification by the peoples of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. The urgency of addressing the constitutional lockdown as the first step of saving the revolution and assuring a smoother and faster attainment of the restoration objective demands of Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians a suspension of all 4 conclave constitutional arrangements and a review and recrafting of a transitional constitutional framework. For the purposes of attaining the preceding objective, it is proposed that a constitutional council be set up and given a mandate to make amendments to the Southern Cameroon's Constitution Order in Council of 1954 to serve the current constitutional needs of the revolution and restoration process of the Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia state, until we attain the complete liberation of the land and submit the current constitutional rules to a constituent assembly, which shall then decide on a new constitutional framework to serve the state moving forward. It is also resolved that we shall reconstitute and revamp an interim government structure that will include 4 equal arms of government working together through the principles of separation of powers and checks and balances to ensure a swift, coherent, and effective prosecution of complete attainment process of the Southern Cameroon liberation quest. These arms shall include a constitutional council serving as the judicial arm of the government, an Ambazonian legislative body composed of a restoration council serving as the upper house, and a house of country and regional representative serving as a lower house. A cabinet serving as the executive arm of government, and fourth, an Ambazonian Self-Defense Council, ASC, serving as a security and policy arm of the liberation struggle of the people, subject to an approved terms of reference and subsequent constitution. The Provisional Restoration Council shall be given the mandate, together with the House of Country and Regional Representatives, to set up an extraordinary legislative secretariat that will operate for a period of 6 months, during which it shall assist in laying out and implementing the blueprint for the transition of the existing structures into the new structures as proposed by the delegates of the National Convention. And that at the end of their mandate, the Secretariat shall retire into a permanent consultative think tank body made up of our finest brains based on subject matter expertise to continue to serve the revolution in consultation with all other arms of government. That the cabinet departments, as decided in Conclave 4, have been downsized, shall be downsized from 7 to 5 for the purposes of swiftness and effectiveness. And these 5 shall remain as the only cabinet departments with a lean internal structure until the Ambazonian legislators deem it needful to increase or reduce them, and at such time that it would table a bill for restricting in a constituent assembly of the people. On this note, the 5 cabinet offices shall include the Department of Education, the Department of Finance and Economy, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Department of Home Affairs, and the Department of Health and Social Services. Point 19, that the Ambazonian legislators shall set up an office of its spokesperson of the revolution as a special office under the executive arm, and it shall be staffed with support communicators to handle the communication and advocacy business of the revolution. This office replaces the former Department of Communication and Information Technology, and for the purposes of downsizing the government for efficiency and efficacy and effectiveness purposes. That the self-defense arm of the government shall only exist as a separate arm of government only throughout the liberation process, after which it shall be reconstituted under the executive arm of the government. In this regard, the Department of Defense and Homeland Security, as previewed and at Conclave 4, is hereby suspended until our territory is regained and liberated by our self-defense council. That Ambazonia shall not automatically adopt colonial territorial governance and administrative structures as they currently are. Rather, the legislature of the people shall set up a restructuring and demarcation committee that shall go on ground and restructure our administrative units based on geographical and socio-cultural considerations, and proposing a 13 or more or less states of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and in respect of a 3-tier government levels made of federal, state, and local governments. That the governing principle of the governing principles of the government of Ambazonia people shall be enshrined in the policies of good governance, which incorporates transparency and accountability, equal separation of powers between the above outlined arms of government, a specific and firm fiduciary oversight of the revolution and restoration process by the Ambazonian legislature, respect for the rule of law and equality among all Ambazonians, respect of anti-corruption and maladministration laws, checks on abuse of power through quarterly reports by executive arm before a joint congressional session of the Ambazonian legislature. That the executive arm shall be given a yearly mandate of 1 year with a mid-year review renewable for a maximum of 4 years, and the legislative and judiciary arm shall be given the same 1 year mandate, but renewable as many times as necessary for purposes of constitutional memory, stability, and continuity. This can be reviewed progressively by the legislature. That the Ambazonian legislature shall set up a Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Reconciliation Council, SCAC, to reconcile our people, create an environment of peace, love, and unity, to promote oneness among our people and foster cooperation and collaboration in our liberation process. That the creation of an office of Auditor General of Ambazonia shall be created, and it shall be a supreme audit institution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The AGA will be an independent state agency established to audit and report on how the government is spending the Federal Republic of Ambazonia taxpayers' contributions, donations, and levies, or any other source of money received from any other source. The Auditor General of Ambazonia will be accountable only to the legislative arm of the revolutionary government, subject to an approved terms of reference. We also resolve on the promotion of unity of purpose through an inclusive, collaborative, and people-centered revolutionary approach that minimizes on our weaknesses and threats and maximizes on our strengths and opportunities, resulting in the following benefits for the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia struggle. with a Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Liberation Fund shall be created, and the investment in it shall be directed towards the liberation of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia through a campaign to ensure financial viability, stability, and sustainability of the Ambazonia People's Revolution and Restoration Quest. To ensure an increase in the efficient and effective resource mobilization through a sustainable funding model that shall prioritize the 20% that provides 80% impact to complement a succinct crowd of funding strategy of citizens' levies, renewed confidence, target business agreements, and leveraging on our human capital and natural capital for equity. Ensure stewardship through quarterly and yearly independent external audit reports to all donors, sponsors, stakeholders, and Southern Cameroonian Ambazonia to ensure value for money and standard of good governance practices and accountability. To revitalize and reprioritize diplomatic actions towards recognition of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia statehood through targeted, effective, efficient, feasible, strategic lobbying and outreach plans. Create new pathways in conducting our diplomacy in order to project a better sense of direction, coordination, data and activity tracking for better follow-up in order to limit duplication of efforts. To urgently develop a strategy to revitalize diplomacy, public relations, and advocacy designed to maximize and realize the opportunity now clearly established by the Nigeria Federal High Court judgment, which has charted the path for quicker freedom of our leaders currently incarcerated in Yaoundé, in the Republic of Cameroon. Build a strong and positive internal-external image of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Revolution with many positive spin-offs. Ensure the independence of self-defense efforts away from political executive activists in order to minimize the losses of lives in ground zero through improved coordination in the defense of our communities, minimize on the economic and psychological pain and suffering of our people, leading to strong resilience and resistance of the occupied. Improve inter-organizational collaboration of humanitarian efforts in ground zero and ground one, in the uses of logistics, financial and human resources to minimize silos, enhance effectiveness and efficiency, and greater oversight and stewardship to donors and stakeholders. Increase ability to run our health and medical facilities and encourage a bottom-up approach to leadership amongst our refugees, prisoners, and other beneficiaries of our health and social services. The Constitution Drafting Committee is given 30, I take it over. The Constitution Drafting Committee shall be given 30 days to provide an amended draft interim constitution for consultation with the people of Southern Cameroon and Ambazonia. Review and update the federal, county, and local government area structures in consultation with stakeholders towards efficiency and effectiveness. The defense of Homeland shall be structured with a central command at the federal and county levels. Self-defense shall have autonomy over its funding, budgeting, and these shall be independent from government and political interferences at the federal and county levels. The defense structure shall collaborate with all other defense factions on ground zero and be restructured to form the Ambazonia Military Council. The national defense shall take the security of Ambazonia on ground zero and ground one a priority and take every measure to stabilize the security situation on the ground. The Provisional Restoration Council shall within 30 days put in place processes for the election of county representatives to the Restoration Council in consultation with the counties. APNC 1 announces an APNC 1 mid-year review of the actions emanating from these resolutions to hold in between June and July 2019 in Europe or Africa, and to be attended only by the Provisional Restoration Council and elected members of the Restoration Council, as well as the executives of the country and regional representatives. The APNC 1 appreciates the job done by our counties and local governments in fundraising and the promotion of good governance and accountability. We invite the counties and the local government areas to the APNC 2. The APNC 1 hereby announces an APNC 2 in November and December, between November and December 2019 in Europe and or Africa for taking stock of the 2019 and drawing up the plan of action for 2020. These resolutions are issued this 3rd day of March 2019 at the Constitutional City of Philadelphia, United States of America, and signed by the delegate who answered the call to physical presence. Long live APNC idea, long live Ambazonia, and short live the struggle to actualization of our restored independence.
Ambazonia rising to follow. Ambazonia rising, rising, rising. Ambazonia rising to follow. Ambazonia rising to follow. Ambazonia rising, rising, rising. Ambazonia rising to follow. Ambazonia rising, rising, rising. Ambazonia rising to follow more. Rising to follow more. Sisiku is rising, rising, rising. Sisiku is rising to follow more. Sisiku is rising to follow more. Sisiku is rising, rising, rising. Sisiku is rising to follow more. Rising to follow more. IG's rising, rising, rising. IG's rising to follow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not done yet. Thank Barrister Boga for presenting the resolutions of the Ambazonian People's National Convention this 3rd day of March. This 3rd day of March 2019. Fellow Ambazonians, fellow friends of Ambazonia, we shall be moving to the chairman of the convention in the person of Professor Asibon Abo. But before we do that, we just want to announce to you that this convention was attended by over 100 delegates from about 6 different countries around the globe. We had representation from Africa. Singa, Nigeria was represented. We had the highest number of attending delegates from Germany, from Europe, from Germany, where we had about 10 delegates from Germany alone. We had delegates from the United Kingdom. We had delegates from Norway. We had delegates from South Africa. And Ground 1 was represented. In addition to that, we also had a webinar conference where the rest of the country and regional representatives and delegates from the other about 35 IG countries around the globe participated in a 20-hour Zoom conference call and webinar in this convention. That was from Friday through Saturday morning. From the 1st through the 2nd, there was a 20-hour working session through a webinar, through Zoom conference, and there was worldwide participation. These resolutions were only crafted after thorough process, due consultation, and extensive vetting. We also want to announce to you that the oldest participant of our convention, the oldest Ambazonian at the convention, was 73 years old, and the youngest Ambazonian to the convention was 2 months old, all the way from the United Kingdom. And he has been dubbed by the chairman of the Defense Committee as Captain Eswa. That will be the youngest Ambazonian captain at 2 months old. It will be in the history of our nation that we had a captain at 2 months old. Therefore, the chairman will give the closing statement of the convention, and then we can now sing the convention song, and everybody can go home. The convention will then be considered closed after the chairman. Thank you.
After 4 days of extensive deliberation, understanding that after a policy has been made, the people who made that policy must sit down to review and evaluate the policy. We, the people of Ambazonia, accepted this Philadelphia for 4 days brainstorming to see where we failed and where we succeeded. We took cognizance of the fact that there was a sort of inertia, and we are conscious of the fact that our people at home were not very comfortable with the way things were going. We now took the SWOT analysis, and that is exactly the outcome which my learned friend, Lawyer Bob just finished reading. In fact, we realized that there was a sort of backsliding by the members of our own group and our tribe, both at home and abroad. After knowing that, we now decided to see that we have to adopt a Republican form of government where power is not invested in one person. If after 57 years we have suffered under the Provocan and primitive regime in the Republic in Yaoundé, we cannot afford in our own new republic to repeat those daily mistakes that we are fighting against. So we came up with the separation of powers idea. that never again should one man have the type of powers that are invested in Yaoundé, which we are fighting against. So right now, the three arms of government have been defined so that we have no complexity or no doubt in the administration of our territory. We have the judicial arm, as you have heard. I don't need to repeat that. That we did in good faith so that no one person can play with our sensibility. We succeeded in that, and I must assure you, those of you who are backsliding now, because of the inaction and the initial depicted by the government which was in place. I am telling you people that everything is watertight. No kobo, no dollar, no franc, no German mark will be misused by anybody. And any nonsense we hire and fire. Our country has been used to one person staying on seat as if it is his father's property. It is unacceptable. We have 1 year. If you fumble, you get out. We hire and fire leaders now, and we. The only way you can stay is on merit. If you are in merit post, you stay there. So please, those who are backsliding in donations and so on, this is the time to renew the zeal we had from the start of this mission. Come on board, make the deliberation, make the donations, make the support, and please know that what you donate and what you give the support for will be accounted for, because anybody who fumbles will be taken to court and jail. Henceforth. So, we are appealing as parents and as responsible citizens that all factions should stop being against themselves. This is a moment of truth. The people divided against themselves can never succeed. So this conference are just pleading with everybody who loves Ambazonia, and we know you love us at ground zero. Come together and fight a common enemy. This is the last time we hear that you are fighting yourselves. We are not many, we're just about 8 million. Can you afford to lose everyone's soul? So thank you and God bless you.
So, SCBC fans, SCBC everyone. So, with this note, we close our live coverage of the APNC events here in California, in Philadelphia. Yeah. So, most of everybody is embarking, and tomorrow we will be heading back to Liberty. And we want to say thank you very much for your loyalty, thank you for all the support, and thank you for being with us. Remember, SCBC is the voice of Ambazonia. So, bye-bye. As the youngest Amazonian, finally. Okay, thank you very much. So, keep quiet.
Na na na, na na na. Ambazonia People's National Convention is the place for all. Let us come to take stock and redefine our future. Come 28th of February at Philadelphia. APNC is a conference called by the people cause they need a resolution. From our post to ground zero to ground one, we all are the IG. Let us come, let us come, let us come as one. Cause united we can save our lane. They say together we will stand, but divided we fall. Raise our voices to speak as one. Yeah. APNC is a conference called by the people cause they need a resolution. From our post to ground zero to ground one, we all are the IG. Let us come as one. Let us heal our land. Let us come as one. Let us save our land. Yeah, it's the beginning of a new dawn. Let's put our heads together cause we really need a resolution. Let's put the differences aside cause we all have a big role to play in this revolution. This is the time we've been waiting for, a time to arise and reclaim our father's land.